YouTube viewers, we encourage you to like, comment, subscribe. This is a show by the people and for the people, damn it. And the more interaction we get from you, the better we like it. In today's program, would you rather be the league MVP or win a championship? Cam Newton has some thoughts on that. We're going to talk about it. Nikola Jokic, is he having the greatest season that any center has ever had? If you're not following the NBA closely, you're not going to believe the stats that this guy is putting up. It's a better question than you might imagine. And does America prefer sausage, biscuits, and gravy or Andre the Giant? These are all questions that we're going to investigate today. Tom Brady had some thoughts on coaching and what makes a good coach. We talked on the program very recently, Bill Belichick saying that you can't be a great coach without great players. And Tom Brady had some comments on Bill Belichick to Colin Cowherd. Let's roll tape.
And there's no coach I would have rather played for than him. He taught me so much. And you're right. I think the role of that coach is very much like a parent. You know, if you're not performing well and your grades are below standard, you got to tell your kids that. And if they're putting forth the effort, you got to tell them that too. And you got to teach them and you got to develop them and you got to be there. And there's a sophistication to being a parent and a good parent at that. Expecting that a lot of these young kids today, they don't know what the right ways to do things are. And you know what? Sometimes to have a little bit of fear in people is a good thing.
Yeah. People
should have to wake up and go, oh God, I got to do a good job today or else. And I think that's very motivating. I think we're in a culture now where everyone's, hopefully it can be a little more balanced that, you know, to be rewarded for bad behavior, to be rewarded for being selfish, to be rewarded for thinking about yourself as an individual in a team sport. Like, I loved playing against those guys. I never wanted to play with those guys. You work too hard for too long to think about yourself in situations in team sports.
All right, some words on team sports and what goes into winning championships, both from a coaching standpoint and from a player standpoint. They're coming from maybe the most credible source that you could possibly get a take from on that particular topic. On the other end of the spectrum, Cam Newton was an NFL quarterback, and like Tom Brady, Cam Newton is a former NFL MVP. And Cam Newton was asked the question, would he trade his MVP award for a Super Bowl ring? And his answer was a bit surprising to many. Let's listen to Cam Newton.
We've got a former league MVP right here on the set right now in Cam. I ask you, Cam, if you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
No.
Oh.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Because you have to ask it through this lens. That was a very journalistic viewpoint or vantage point or response, Stephen A. I'll ask you this question, and, you know, just to pose this thought. What's more important, impact or championships? You look at a guy like Allen Iverson, or you stood up on the table and blah, 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 blah. Everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's not going to be these individuals who have the luxury of saying, hey, I not only dominated this sport, but I also have championships to back it. Like, let me remind you, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Respectfully, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. So, yes, when you look at those guys and you say, okay, what's more important? Would you have preferred to win a Super Bowl? I think that's the humble approach. But if we're being honest, the impact of you holding yourself accountable to say everybody has a responsibility to do. And you can say as an MVP award winner or an All-American, you've held yourself or you've held your end of the bargain down. And that's what it really comes down to for me. I know that's not the popular pick. I'm trying to be popularized. But my take is I'm taking individual success because I did my job. Football is not about one guy trying to do 11 jobs. It's 11 guys doing one job. And if everybody does their job best, famous words of our coach, Belichick, just do your job.
Just do it.
Well, that was a fun reaction that Cam got. Hey, Cam, would you trade your MVP award for a Super Bowl ring? And Cam says, no. And then did you hear, oh, can we replay just like the reaction that he got to that, guys? Am I asking too much? Just the immediate reaction.
We've got a former league MVP right here on the set right now in Cam. I ask you, Cam, if you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
Nope.
Oh.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Because you have to ask it.
Oh, really? You would have thought that he had said, I just pooped my pants or something on television. And look, I understand what the virtuous thing to say is that it's all about team, that's all that matters, everything for the team. You make whatever sacrifice you have to have, be a good teammate. Everybody on the team is equally important. But look, and I'm not a Cam Newton fan necessarily. He annoys me the way his stupid hats. I can't get past the way that he dresses some of the time. I think he's an egotistical guy. I don't agree with a lot of his takes. But I'm tempted to kind of sort of defend him a little bit on this. And maybe I should be like dodging the arrows here for going out on this island. It's not a full defense, but I'm just saying I can see both sides of it. I can see both sides of it. When I was a kid, I remember one of my friends telling me something that a coach had told him. He was a basketball player. And the coach said, would you guys rather score 30 points a game and be on a losing team? Or would you rather score 1 point a game and be on a championship team? And we all know the thing that you're supposed to say to be a good person, to be a good teammate, to exemplify what sports are really truly in their purest form all about. But I remember thinking, even as like a 12-year-old kid, I don't know, 30 points a game sounds pretty good, because even at that tender age, I understood money and women. Who would you rather be? Look, Cam Newton had a very fine career. Got to the Super Bowl, lost. Does not have a ring, but he has an MVP. There's going to be, at least 53? How many Super Bowl rings are going to get passed out for this season? How many of the guys who get a ring are you going to ever know what their name is? How many guys have a ring? Now, quick, name 5 people on the New Orleans Saints team that beat Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. Back in Super Bowl, whatever the fuck Super Bowl that was. How many can you name? Drew Brees? Go ahead. Who else is popping to mind for you? You can name MVPs. It's a hell of a lot rarer than Super Bowl rings. Joe Horn, says producer Tim in my ear. Okay, there's 2. Would you rather be the MVP or would you rather win a ring? Now look, I know you might be looking at me and say, well, you long-haired hippie communist son of a bitch. Why would you possibly make this argument? But let's put some statistics on the board. I want to just think this out a little bit. Luis Soho. Do you remember Luis Soho? He was a utility infielder for the New York Yankees back during the Joe Torre, Derek Jeter dynasty of the late 90s. There you go. He has 4 World Series rings. Look up there in the upper right-hand corner. He wore more different numbers on his back in his career. Look at that. A lot of different numbers. He's a number 10. We're celebrating number 10s today at Super 70 Sports. Get over there. You can suggest Luis Soho, 4-time World Series winner, who hit .261 for his career, had a career WAR of 4. A respectable career, and a guy who was a role player, a very limited role player on a bunch of great teams. Would you rather be Luis Soho, a 4-time champion? Or would you rather be this man? Put him up, guys. The Splendid Splinter, Ted Williams, 2-time MVP, 2 Triple Crowns, 6 batting titles, 19-time Major League All-Star, Hall of Famer, 344 career batting average, 521 home runs, 121.8 WAR while serving in 2 real wars. What would that 121 number be if he hadn't missed 2 years to Korea and 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I believe it was, in World War II. He lost 5 years out of his career. In his prime. But no World Series championship on Ted Williams' resume. How many books have they written about Luis Sojo? Would you rather be Luis Sojo? You'd have 4 World Series rings. Or would you rather be Ted Williams? I think it's a fair question. Scottie Pippen recently sort of tangentially touched upon this topic when he was answering the question of who had a better career. Who would you rather have, Scottie Pippen or LeBron James? When confronted with the question of Michael Jordan or LeBron James, Scottie Pippen chose Scottie Pippen. Let's listen.
Would you put yourself ahead of LeBron?
As a team standpoint.
Would you put yourself ahead of LeBron as a team standpoint?
My success as a team is more successful than LeBron. I got 6 rings.
Okay, so then if I talk to an NBA owner, by the way, this is very helpful because realize this is very helpful because for me as a fan, I've followed this. So if I speak from an NBA standpoint, owner, and I want to find an all-around player to be my number one, you think the average owner is going to pick you or LeBron?
I don't know.
Got it. Okay. So that.
You want individual accolades or you want championships? Because I didn't chase mine.
Okay.
Look, I give Scotty, and I love how Patrick Bet David just keeps saying, okay, as he's trying to process what Scotty's saying. You did play with Michael Jordan. Now, would Michael have won 6 without Scotty? Probably not. How many, would Scotty have won even 1 without Michael? I mean, we don't know. It is a team game. But is Cam Newton a dick for saying that he wouldn't trade an MVP award for a ring? MVP awards are a lot harder to come by. There's lots of champions. You know how many names are on the Stanley Cup? How many of them do you really care about? It's Wayne Gretzky hoisting that cup, or Bobby Orr hoisting that cup, or Gordie Howe that gets people excited. It's not some 4th liner. So I understand where Cam's coming from. You know, Robert Horry has more rings than Michael Jordan. Who would you rather be? Do you think Michael Jordan would trade his individual accolades? Would he trade his MVP awards to have 1 more ring so that he could have 7, as many as Bob Horry has? Do you think that's very realistic? And look, nothing against Bob Horry. And Bob Horry was a bigger contributor on the teams that he played on than Luis Sojo was to the Yankees. He was a valuable guy, but he was a role player. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. You heard Cam Newton say, Brad Johnson, he's throwing guys under the bus. Brad Johnson has 1. Trent Dilfer has 1. Cam said, respectfully. Nick Foles has 1. Let me translate that for you. Respectfully. Even Nick Foles' sorry ass has 1, is what he was saying. Cam Newton was 5 times the player Nick Foles was, probably, if we're just being real about it. So would you trade your MVP for a Super Bowl? Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley. We can go down the list of great players who never won a championship. The answer didn't have an answer for winning a championship. Chuck never won a championship. Karl Malone and John Stockton. Karl Malone's, what's Malone? Where does he rank? Is he the 2nd leading scorer of all time? 3rd leading scorer of all time, I guess now? John Stockton averaged 14 assists a year. Dream teamers. Never won a championship. So what would you rather have? Yogi Berra. Let's go to Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra is the greatest champion in the history of baseball, by the way. He has MVPs and World Series rings. See, if you're as good as Michael Jordan or if you're as good as Tom Brady, you don't have to choose between MVP awards and world championships because you like to dabble in both. Yogi Berra, 3 MVP awards, 13 World Series rings, 10 as a player. Machine gunner at Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944. He helped us win the big one as well. Maybe the all-time winner in the history of sports right there. Yogi Berra, a guy who once said, "So I'm ugly. I've never seen anybody hit with their face." You got to love him. The same guy who said when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And he came to the fork in the road between winning MVPs and winning world championships, and he took it. Let me go now to the international streaming star who joins me from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie, where do you come from here? I don't know. I know it's an unpopular opinion. Cam Newton is a guy that I don't ordinarily find myself sort of kind of in his foxhole. But I don't think saying that you wouldn't trade an MVP award for a Super Bowl championship is necessarily something that he should be completely condemned for. The hat that he was wearing when he said it, absolutely, he should be condemned for that, mocked and ridiculed. But the take, I at least understand his point.
Yeah, I think your argument and your comparisons are super flawed, Ricky. Sorry. You're
going to come in here and virtue signal now and be the good guy. You're going to be the good cop. Hey, everybody love me.
No,
everybody love Ronnie T-Shirts. The guy who hosts the show's a dickhead because he thinks that MVP awards are rarer and indicate a higher level of greatness than a championship does.
No,
go ahead. Just throw me under the bus and then back over me, Ronnie.
I mean, I can just agree with you if you want, and then we can go to the next subject. But I think that when you're comparing Luis Soho to Ted Williams, that's a flawed comparison. And when you're talking about what your coach said to you when you were younger about, do you want to score 1 point and win a championship or score 30 and not win one? See, there's an in-between, Ricky. I personally would rather be a contributor and score 15, 17 points and not be the star of the team and win a championship. I do want to be a contributor. I don't want to be Luis Soho. I want people to look at me and go, that's a damn good player. That guy contributes. He's one of the best. But he's not an MVP. I'm totally cool with that. I don't want to be, I would much rather score 30 points on a team and not win a championship than score 1 point on a team and win a championship, because that feels like ass. But let me score 15 points. And that's where I'm coming from, Ricky. Cam Newton is an acclaimed quarterback. People respect his ability as an athlete and as a quarterback. So that should be enough, because I'd much rather be Cam Newton and his entire career, but take away the MVP and get a Super Bowl championship. That would be way better, because I can tell you something, Ricky. Life's about relationships and experiences. It's not about things. And I don't know, the Eiffel Tower, the Grand Canyon, you know what sucks? To go stand there and look at them for the first time by yourself. It's way better to be with somebody that you care about and you can share that awesome experience. So that's why I'm saying your argument was flawed, was you're comparing somebody that doesn't do anything. I agree. That feels awful. I would much rather be a positive contributor on a championship team.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with that, Ron. I was just kind of going to an extreme in order to go to bat for Cam, who's catching a lot of shit for this.
Well,
like
but that's why I just say I thought it was
opinion.
I'm just being honest. I thought it was a flawed comparison, because what you should be comparing it to. I like the Scottie Pippen. I guess the Scottie Pippen LeBron. I'm just trying to do this in my head. Scottie was never an MVP, right? But he's considered one of the best 50 players ever, right? I think it'd be awesome to be a top 50 player.
How would you feel about being Horace Grant? How would you feel about being Horace Grant?
Awesome.
Just
what
like
an
11
awesome
points
life.
and
what an awesome
7
life.
rebounds as the
awesome life.
Third guy.
Yeah, an absolute amazing life with a lifetime of experiences and hopefully a lifetime of relationships. I think that would be awesome.
I'd rather have Eli Manning's career. Jared was saying this morning in our show text. Eli Manning, you look at was Cam Newton better than Eli Manning? I mean, his peak performance, it's hard to argue. Cam Newton at his very best was a better quarterback than Eli Manning, I would argue.
Yeah.
But Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls and had a very long, overall productive career. I would rather have Eli Manning's career than Cam Newton's career, to your point. So it isn't just an all or nothing argument. And I think it's good that you said that. And it's a provocative question for Stephen A to ask Cam Newton. He kind of put him in an odd position there just by asking that question. But yeah, the idea of being, I just remember as a kid thinking, well, no, I don't want to be the 1-point spirit guy waving a towel at the end of the bench. The guy who's checking into 25-point blowouts. Because you didn't do the lifting.
Yeah, being the 15-point guy would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd rather be Eli Manning than Cam Newton, but I'd rather be Cam Newton probably than the Giants' long snapper.
Yeah, but hey,
on either of those teams.
Not to be sappy, but I got to tell you, man, I love my role. Like, this is the Ricky Cobb show. This isn't the Ricky and Ronnie T-shirt show. It's the Ricky Cobb show. But I'm a contributor. I feel good about my contributions, and I am so happy to be along on this ride. I don't need it to be the Ronnie T-shirt show, or I don't even need my name at the bottom of it.
Ronnie, you're going to be the Robert Horry of Emmys. Just one day they're behind you. It's going to be Ohio State. You won't even be able to see the Ohio State Wall of Honor for the Emmys that you're going to have stacked back there. Oh. And everybody's just going to say, Big Shot Ron was a critical contributor to a dynasty. That's what's going to happen. Speaking of Stephen A, Ron, have you seen, there's some very early, very just really for fun, honestly, because polls are notoriously unreliable, even weeks or months out sometimes. But they're polling Democratic voters for who would be their choice for 2028 right now. And Stephen A. Smith clocking in with 2%, baby. Take a look at that, Ron.
If I was Stephen A., I'd be embarrassed.
Kamala Harris at 33%. That's not going to happen, though.
If I'm Stephen A., I'm embarrassed that Tim Walz beat me.
Listen, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Look, Harris, that's not going to happen. They're never going to allow her to be in that position again. Secretary of Transportation, Booty Juice, he's gone. That's never going to happen. Gavin Newsom's going to be around. I believe he has ambitions. AOC has ambitions. Josh Shapiro there from Pennsylvania. You got Tim Walz. His career's dead on a national level. They perform so badly. You're never going to see them on a ballot again at that level. And then Stephen A. But you know what? I don't know. The sad part about this dude is among the names there, the only name, if I were a Democrat, that I would consider possibly ahead of Stephen A. Smith is Shapiro.
I was just going to say
I would vote for Stephen A. Smith head-to-head over the rest of them because Stephen A. is intelligent, and I have no reason to believe that Stephen A. isn't at his heart a reasonable, honorable person. And so that already puts him ahead of everybody on that list except for Shapiro, for me.
I would agree.
Harris. Ron, 33%. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Look, for anybody that wants to be a future president of this country, go out and face down a brutal communist nuclear powerhouse while wearing a Houston Oilers cowboy hat, and then we'll have a conversation. That's an old-time class. I believe Ted Cruz retweeted that, Ron, actually, one time. So Ted Cruz sees the wisdom in that. You take down the Soviet Union while you're looking like Bum Phillips. And by the way, cheers. Just taking a little sip from my Houston Oilers, at least, or have a Houston Oilers mug on your desk if you want to achieve greatness as a talk show host, or at least attempt to pursue it. Elon Musk, with a tweet here, something that came to light. ICE obviously is out there. The deportations are underway. Trump, whether you like it or whether you don't, Trump making good on his promises to clean up the situation with illegal immigrants in this country. A lot being done already. We're not even 2 full weeks into the second Trump administration, and we're seeing this happen. But there's pushback, Ron. J.B. Pritzker has been very vocal here in Illinois that they don't want ICE here, and they're not going to go along with this. And in Chicago, we've even got judges who are sending illegal immigrants back out onto the streets, and the media seems to also be against what is happening. Let's roll the tape, and you and I will discuss, Ronnie.
Of Chicago's federal court building, Maria and Ruben are still trying to shake off the trauma of Sunday night. Much like these raids across the country, the Venezuelan couple says immigration agents stormed their Schaumburg home. Speaking only in Spanish, Maria told our Michelle Gallardo,
Nos apuntaron a mi esposo.
She said they were pointing their guns at me and my husband. They knocked him to the ground. Federal agents carried out Maria's daughter's boyfriend, 24-year-old Edward Martinez Sarmiento. Federal prosecutors say Martinez Sarmiento crossed the border illegally in western Texas in 2023 and made his way to the Chicago area. That charge is merely a misdemeanor, not a felony.
Y se fueron, no nos dieron una explicación.
They just left without an explanation. They didn't show us any documents. We were scared. We were all in crisis. Tuesday, his appointed public defender told a judge Martinez Sarmiento had served as a police officer in Venezuela. Cook County court records show Chicago police arrested Edward Martinez Sarmiento for a felony retail theft in January 2024, and he failed to appear for court, triggering a warrant for his arrest.
All right, Ron. So here I go. Look, I'm reading between the lines here. First of all, that was a very sympathetic piece there from the TV station towards the guy from Venezuela here, the individual in question. They say that charge is merely a misdemeanor coming into the country illegally. That he served as a police officer in Venezuela, right? You've got the worried, parents there who are talking about how bad it all was and whatever. But here's the crux of it, Ron. The guy came into the country illegally, was arrested on a felony theft charge over a year ago, did not show up in court for it, and then they came and got him. Who's in the wrong and who's in the right here? Do you think if you or I, as American citizens, got charged with felony theft, just decided that we weren't going to appear, and then a year later, if somebody came and got me, obviously as an American citizen, they wouldn't be deporting me, but if they came and got me to face the music for what I'd been charged for and what I'd been avoiding, would anybody have sympathy for me? Why? It seems to me, would I just be released? Would it be like, oh, they were mean to me because they came into my house and they weren't nice about it when they got me? What do you make of this? It seems like this is preferential treatment that the ordinary person would not get. To have been charged with a felony, not appear for a year, and then, oh my gosh, they're such bad guys for coming and getting me. What are we doing here?
I can't even believe you're asking me this question. Like, this is silly that we're even asking these questions of each other right now. Of course it's ridiculous, Ricky. Like, how the fact that there are people out there that think that there's a problem with this, that's the biggest freaking problem in this country, is that we have people that sympathize with this. you want to sympathize with, dreamers and stuff like that. I 100% understand a kid that came to this country, 17 years ago, had nothing to do with it. His parents brought him over here, and they've been living here for 17 years and have been living a clean, great life. I understand why you'd be upset if the authorities came and pulled them out and deported them. But this guy, this guy's a freaking criminal, Ricky. And for people to think
charged
any
with
sympathy.
It at least. Look, charged.
No, he didn't show up.
When you don't show up.
Yeah, you don't show up. Now you've compounded it. You've compounded it. So
yes.
That's a problem because Ricky, I got pulled over for speeding one time on the way back from Cincinnati to Columbus. And they said, "Please step out of your car." And I said, "I'm sorry, what?" They said, "Sir, please step out of your car. We have a warrant for your arrest." I said, "What?" I just had to get in the car. I had to get in the police car, and I had to go to that little local jail. And it turns out that I had been in a fender bender in a grocery store's parking lot, and they had sent me some sort of a form that you have to fill out.
Summons or something?
No,
okay.
It was like an insurance form, like a proof of insurance or something like that. And
Why am I only learning about this now? This is an incredible story.
Oh, well, and I never saw it because we had moved from one apartment to a house that we built. So it just never got, I never got it. And it got cleared up literally the next morning, but they took that shit seriously. There was a warrant out for my arrest.
Damn.
And they
free Ronnie t-shirts.
Yeah, they left my car on the side of the road.
You were like Scotty Scheffler before Scotty Scheffler.
Absolutely.
Ron,
absolutely.
I don't know. It's like,
but my point, my point, Ricky, is that they take, whether that kid did that theft or not, that's a whole nother story, but he didn't show up. That right there, we don't need to have a jury to decide whether he was guilty or innocent of that.
He's going to get released though. What happened to justice, Ron? What happened to justice is all I'm saying. Back in my day, you had an issue, you'd take them to court. That's what Doug Llewellyn always said. Nothing better than losing on the people's court and then having Doug Llewellyn treat you like you're a stupid piece of shit on the way out. Rusty the bailiff in there with his goddamn hand cannon. Judge Wapner dispensing justice. Judge Wapner would have had no patience for somebody who's charged with felony theft and doesn't show up. I guarantee you that. Judge Wapner was meting out impartial justice, Ronnie, is what it was. And we mete out impartial justice every week on this program when we have America's poll of the day. The public decides. We put 4 options out. The public decides. And then on Friday, we gather the champions of each day together to crown the champion of the week. We call it Championship Friday. All right, here we go. We're going to see.
Andre the Giant. I saw him in Pennsylvania. I'll never forget it. The guy was 3 feet taller than everybody
Called
else.
It, Ron.
You did.
Called that shit. I got the exacta. The fine NBCSports.com writer Kurt Heelan. Kurt, good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's good to see you.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. What do you make of this? We've had a lot of talk about the 3-pointers getting out of hand in the league, and I'll pick your brain about that as well. But this is one that wasn't really on my radar until I saw the clip of Silver talking about it. I don't know. Do you think, is this something that's realistic?
No, thank God, no. I think this was Silver. Look, there's not really, after talking to some people yesterday, there's not even really support for this deeply within the league office or anywhere. This was Adam Silver going off on his own a little bit, maybe trial balloon. He wanted to see how this flowed. And look, it wasn't just me who wrote a column saying this is a horrible idea. A lot of media members did. Mike Malone, a couple other coaches came out and ripped it. There was a player or two. Like, nobody likes this idea. So I think what happened is Adam's like, I kind of like this idea. I'm going to try it out and see what happens. And it got blown up pretty quickly. And knock on wood, this is the end of it. We'll see.
Kurt, why do you think that is? that it's not popular with players, coaches, etc., based on what you're hearing?
I think there's a few flaws. One is this isn't adding a pitch clock to me. This is playing 7 innings, right? Like, you are changing the very structure of the game as opposed to just messing with some timing around it. Like, hey, would I like shorter reviews and finding ways to tighten up the last 35 seconds of a tight game doesn't drag out for 8 minutes? Like, yeah, there's things I'd like them to do, but this is a dramatic change. The other 2 things that are kind of key here. Does anyone really think there's going to be less ads in a game for 40 minutes? Like, I work for a network that just paid a whole lot of money. You think we're just going to cram more ads into a 40-minute game? So to me, that doesn't. And the other thing is, Adam will say it's kind of a load management thing. Hey, it's the equivalent of cutting it down to like a 68-game season. That's not how it's going to work. If Kevin Durant plays 36 minutes now, Kevin Durant's going to play 36 minutes then. I just have to play his backup less because that's how I win games.
Nikola Jokic. I saw a clip this week where Kevin Garnett said Joker is WILT. And I was looking at his stats, and I just want to go for people who aren't following the league closely. He is averaging almost 30 points a night, which is 3rd in the league. He's averaging almost 13 rebounds a night. He's 3rd in the league in that category as well. He's averaging 10 assists, which is 2nd in the league. He is 4th in the league in steals per game, and he's 3rd in the league in 3-point percentage at 47.2%. Now, this is a guy, Kurt, as you well know, a 3-time MVP. I don't see how he could possibly be denied this year. That would be an incredible miscarriage of justice if he's not the MVP this year. He almost certainly has to be. I don't see how you could deny it. That makes him a 4-time MVP, 4 in the last 5 years. And the 1 year that he didn't win it, he won a championship and he was the finals MVP.
Yeah.
Not enough is said about this. I mean, I think that he is on the precipice. If he's not already, he's somewhere around the top 10 all time at this point. Is he not?
He has to be. And by the way, doing it with the Patrick Mahomes dad bod, right? Like, not one of those guys you look at and think it is this insane specimen. But his WILT is an example, and I've heard, I forget who said it recently, compared him to Magic, a former player, with the vision, the passing vision, and the ability to score more efficiently than Magic did, frankly, but a passing vision that is just unparalleled. And with that, there's no player that better elevates everyone around him in the league. Okay players become Russell Westbrook, who's written off in a bunch of circles. Nobody wanted him. Looks good this year. Looks solid. He's making plays for them and is meaningful for them because he brings energy and he's figured out how to play off Jokic with cuts and moves that get him to the rim and use that athleticism. It's his ability to raise everyone up is unparalleled, and he's absolutely in the mix. I will say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has an absolute case for MVP too, and as a voter, I will say, and it's a coin flip right now. I'm glad I'm glad I'm not losing sleep this week over it, but in April I will be losing sleep over trying to.
Kurt, I want to lobby so hard for Jokic right now. Kurt, look at those. I'm just going to lobby for Jokic here real quickly. If it comes down to one vote, you could be the guy who decides this thing. Steph Curry's best season from 3-point range. I had to go and look it up because 47% for a center, much less a guy who's averaging 10 assists a game. Steph Curry's best season from 3-point range, 45.5% in 2012.
Yeah.
If Jokic can stay where he's at, he's going to post a higher 3-point efficiency this year than Steph has ever done. Hey, if you had told me when I was a kid that one day there would be a center who averaged 30, 13, and 10 and shot 47% from 3-point range, I would have laughed. You would have laughed. Any of us would have. It's unbelievable what this guy's doing. I'm so impressed with him. But follow your conscience, of course, Kurt. You're the man who earned the credentials. I'm just a dude on a TV
I'm
show.
not kidding. I will end up losing a lot of sleep over this at the end of the season. There will be, and Jokic's other big case is simply his load is heavier that he has to carry. There is more talent and better balanced talent and certainly younger, more athletic talent around Shea in Oklahoma City than there is in Denver, where Murray missed a chunk of time this season and hasn't been right. And they just got Aaron Gordon back and stuff. And that team has continued to climb the standings because Jokic is that good.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.